Hello, my name is Morgan Klein, and this is my virtual presentation of our ELL case study. So for my case study, I got to interview Gwen, who is a 16-year-old that attends my church, and her family just recently moved to America from Honduras 7 months ago. And throughout the course of the interview, I got to talk to her a lot about the varying aspects of her culture, just the differences in the education system in Honduras, and also I got to conduct an analysis between Spanish and also English. So first, I got to talk to her about just culture and just deep culture, so stuff underneath the surface level that we don't typically see or take into account. And I got to talk to her about concepts of time, which their concepts of time vary drastically from ours. We are very time-driven. We really love schedules and we'd like to adhere to them. However, Hondurans don't find adhering to a strict time commitment very important. So for example, in Honduras, if plans for dinner are made around 7 p.m., the host will typically expect them to arrive around 8:30 p.m. So it's not found rude. It's just a part of their culture. So really, when we see this, we need to keep this cultural aspect in the back of our minds, and so that we can apply it in the classroom, because it could be difficult for ELL students from this background to adhere to the schedules applied throughout the day or deadlines for assignments when they come to the United States. And also, I got to talk to her about core values. So in the United States, we have a very individualistic mentality. However, in Honduras, that is not the case. The focus is shifted off of the individual and placed on the family unit instead. So really, the success and survival of the family, it comes before all else. Meaning, if the family business needs help, if mom or dad need help at the house, if there's, younger siblings need taken care of, that would fall then on the children, it would be the children's responsibility to take care of those things, even if that means missing school, which is also another thing that's really important to be aware of. So as educators, we need to be aware of this core value, so the child isn't penalized for something that is out of their control. I also got to talk to her about education and the similarities and differences that we see between education in the United States and education in Honduras. So, like the United States, education in Honduras, there is a free compulsory education for children ages 7 to 13. And then when they've finished with that, a lot of them are removed after, the primary education is finished, so that they can help out the family. However, if they continue, they'll go on to secondary education, which is basically like high school, which then lasts for 3 years. So students in Honduras usually finish school before students in America do, which is why Gwen is 15 right now, and she shared with me, had she stayed in Honduras, she would have been graduated. However, here she's still a junior in high school. And then after that, they can choose either a higher education, such as college, which is really rare there, or they can go on a more vocational route. Also, the classroom setting is very traditional and teacher-centered. She shared with me that the teacher is focused on their teaching, and the students don't really participate by themselves. So an interactive, participatory classroom that teachers here really seek out, it's not very important there. And also, a consistent and structured education is really hard to come by there, especially since many public schools don't receive the sufficient funding, and any materials acquired are typically out of date and irrelevant to the child's education. So teachers aren't really provided a lot in order to aid in the child's education. So they just kind of have to work with what they got. And then also the instructional setting. In Honduras, there are more female teachers than male, which is also the same case in the United States. However, Gwen said that they have more males here than they do there, because she'll have in high school right now, she has 2 or 3 male teachers, and that's a big surprise for her. Also, something that's really different is they don't change classrooms or teachers a lot of times in Honduras. So in Honduras, the structure is that the children will stay in the same classroom all day, and the teachers will come to them. in Honduras, there are both private and public schools, and the quality of education received at both is generally the same. However, private schools are usually equated with wealth and social standing, so people with more money will send their children to private schools, not for the sake of education, but just for the sake of social class. And then here, technology is, it's kind of mandatory for all of our classes. Everything's online. Computers are used in class. It's a norm for us. However, that is not normal in Honduras. Like I was sharing earlier, the government doesn't really fund, education as much as they ought to. And so the use of technology in the classroom is very slim. And Gwen shared with me that in the 6 years, in the 6 schools that she was in while in Honduras, she only used technology 1 time a week in her computing classroom, and she only had that 2 years. So in Honduras, having technology to work in classes is not even a thought for us. So it's very, very different. Also, enrichment activities such as band or physical, or sports, drama club, etc. Those extracurricular activities there aren't many opportunities to participate in those in Honduras. Extracurricular activities, one, require someone or something to fund them, which is not a common thing in Honduras, but also they're an additional time commitment, and we know a lot of the children in Honduras are busy helping out their families when they're not in school, so that could be a stretch for them. However, physical education is provided in schools once a week, and the children really seem to love that. Discipline and classroom management. Gwen shared with me that she did think that teachers in Honduras seemed to be stricter. She said that it seemed like they had less tolerance, whereas here, if a child did something wrong, they would have 2 or 3 chances to correct it before getting in trouble. However, in Honduras, it was kind of a one and done act. So, and there's a quote at the bottom of the page talking about their disciplinary measures. So they would call your parents if you missed a homework assignment. If you were disrespectful or misbehaved, you could get expelled from school for 3 days. Some places would make you stay and clean, or you'd have to just repetitively write down verses of the Bible. So the teacher-parent-student relations in Honduras is completely different than what it is here. Here we have the PTA, we have parents volunteering in classrooms, are very involved in their child's education. Teachers want to create those opportunities. In Honduras, that's not really the case. Parents, it's just typically not the norm of most parents in Honduras to be involved in the classroom or in their child's education. But Gwen told me that the teachers were really regarded as friendly and helpful, so that was cool. And then also other educational things to consider, is that here, if you fail a subject, you have to take it online or in summer school, and if you don't pass it, you can't go on to the next grade. However, in Honduras, if you don't pass it, you can go on to the next grade and just add that subject into your course load. And also, something I found really interesting but kind of sad was the quality of education was really affected by teachers. Since the government doesn't really have a lot of money, it's not uncommon for their paychecks to be withheld. And when those things occur, strikes can result from that, and also the closure of schools, which is really sad because it means that students, they're not really getting an opportunity to a structured or dependable educational experience. I also got to conduct an analysis of the difference between the Spanish language and the English language. So the Spanish writing system is Spanish orthography. It is based off the same 26-letter alphabet, the Latin alphabet that we use, except an additional letter is added. So there's 27. And really even since K and W are, they're included in that alphabet. However, they're not really used in Spanish. They're just kind of borrowed. So the only times you see K or W in words in Spanish is if those words have been adopted from English. And also another difference is that punctuations such as exclamation marks or question marks are at the beginning of the sentences as well as at the end. In regards to phonology and the sounds, English has 12 pure vowel sounds while Spanish only has 5. So that's a big difference, which means that it's very evident and understandable why ELLs would struggle to distinguish and pronounce various words containing heavy vowel sounds. So, for example, the words feel and fell, those could be very hard for an ELL student coming from this background to pronounce. And also something that they typically struggle with is prefacing the letter S with the letter E sound. And so usually I know Gwen struggles with this when she would say a word, such as like if she said same, it would become a same, or small, it would become a small. In regards to morphology, apostrophes aren't used, and you can see in these translations I asked her to do that like Jacob's watch turned into the watch of Jacob because they just don't use apostrophes. And also they translate things differently, so I asked her to translate Emily goes to a park to take a walk every Friday, and our literal translation of what she said would be Emily, she takes a walk. So they add va in there. Also, masculine and feminine, the gender of nouns and pronouns are very important. So, the gender of pronouns, there's el, los, la, and las. Nouns that are masculine will end with O. Nouns that are feminine will end with A. And also, once the gender of the noun has been identified in a sentence, adjectives and adverbs will take on that gender. Articles, we have many articles in the English, language. However, they have 4 definite articles, which are la, las, el, and los. And those articles help identify both the gender of the noun and also whether the noun is plural or singular. In regards to cognates, they are called English-Spanish cognates if they have been adopted from the English language. There are different types. So there's perfect cognates, which means that a word in Spanish and a word in English are spelled the same and they mean the same. There's also near perfect cognates, which means that there's a 2 to 3 letter difference in the spelling. However, they're still pretty similar. But these are really, they make it easy for ELLs to learn English, but also can be confusing if the meaning isn't the same. In regards to syntax, we have the same structure as they do, subject, verb, object. However, in Spanish, it tends to fall more on the loose side. And also adjectives are placed after the noun. So you can see in this example, red is placed after shoe, and adverbs are typically placed in Spanish, adverbs are typically placed closer to the word they're modifying, which is why cautiously is placed next to parking. Pragmatics and semantics. She shared with me that there are both formal and informal ways to address people. So if you're addressing someone formally, you address them as usted. And if you were addressing someone informally, you would address them as tú. And also dates are written different. So we write the month, day, and year, but they write the day, month, year. So, and then just Gwen shared that, learning English has been difficult. She typically, gets the sounds of E and I confused, and sometimes when she's translating a lot, she gets mixed up and she will forget which language she's using. But she really shared that daily practice allows her to continually get better. And in conclusion, by interviewing Gwen, I was able to conduct an extensive analysis of the Honduran education system and the language in which surrounds it. So while culture in Honduras can be similar to the culture we have in the United States, there are really many differences between the two. So by spending time with her and studying her culture, it helps me to understand the struggles that ELLs often face, such as arriving late to class due to not valuing concepts of time, being able to work technology, or struggling to learn aspects of English that clearly contradict that in which they've learned in their first language. So, as a future educator, I will strive to not only cultivate a culturally inclusive classroom and educate students on the importance of being knowledgeable regarding others' backgrounds, but I really want to rid myself of ignorance towards the struggles of the ELLs I encounter and what they may face. And I really want my classroom to give ELLs an encouraging experience of assimilating into another culture while feeling like they're valued, understood, and worth the extra effort it may take their teachers in order to see them achieve academic success. And that is the end of my presentation, and here are my resources. Thank you.